a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Well, my guest today is a comedian from St. John, New Brunswick. Welcome, Katelin Dean. Welcome to the show, Katelin.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks for having me.
For sure. Okay, so now, other than your day job, of all the things you could be doing, and I know from personal experience, doing stand-up is not an easy gig. So why stand-up?
Well, it's not the only thing I do, but why stand up? I can still answer that question. I've been a performer for a long time in various milieus, and it is the most fun and most stress that I've ever had on stage. And it's intoxicating. When you hear that first laugh, it's like I can't help but want anything else. It's like, gotta be funnier, gotta do this, gotta do that. But it's just, and when you get it, I don't think there's a more joyous feeling.
I totally agree, right? You're always chasing that. It's like getting high,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So when did you start doing stand-up?
Just in August, about 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty new to the scene.
Okay, so what made you decide to do that?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, probably since I was in high school. I was a huge Saturday Night Live fan, and then got into comedy, and there was like a Last Comic Standing kind of reality show in my university days that I was like obsessed with, and I've always loved stand up so much. And I had a terrible pandemic relationship with this terrible person who, among all of his foibles, he also had tried his hand at stand up. And all I could think was he was probably the least funny person I've ever met in my entire life. And I was like, oh my God, if he can do it, I surely can make some people laugh. And so it kind of gave me a little bit of courage, a couple of years later, outside of that relationship, to give it a whirl. And so one time I found myself in Moncton at one of those it was called the Inferno show. And it's one of those Kill Tony situations where they pull your name out of a hat if you're interested. And I was there like on a whim.
Right.
And I had no intention of putting my name in, but I had material that I'd kind of, written down some notes in my phone and stuff from the past, like just stuff that I found funny. I was like, if I ever do this, here's some jokes. So as prepared as one can be for a situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got up and I did a minute and a half of comedy kind of off the cuff, and got a couple of genuine laughs from strangers. And I was like, okay, let's reassess. And then a couple months after that, I actually put a set together and went in one of the open mics around here. No jokes barred.
Right. That's really cool. So how do you prepare yourself? So tonight you have a gig, you're going on at whatever time it is. So how do you prepare yourself?
Well, there's two different preparations. One, I'm a writer by trade. Like I worked as a journalist for a long time, and I'm working in communications now. And so writing is kind of my bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first stretch of preparation is to write. I write, edit, write. And then the day of, I'll kind of go through, think about what I've done recently, what I feel like, and not that I have so much material. I've been doing it for 6 months, for goodness sakes. So it's like, okay, which 5-minute set am I going to do? This one or that one? And or do you want me to do all 10? Okay, there's all of it. And but it's kind of like, which order do they go in? And one of the things I always do for nights that I've had any kind of success is that I actually run through the routine just myself, whether it's sitting in my car immediately before the gig, and I'm literally speaking out loud with a timer on, and kind of working on those like vocal inflections and that sort of thing. And the other thing I do is I just try not to get too in my head about it, because at the end of the day, we're there to have fun. And so if I'm not having fun on the stage, nobody is having fun watching me.
Right.
That was actually the first piece of advice I was ever given by a well-known comedian here, James Mollinger, who I've been friends with for a while. My first night, he sent me this note. It was a lovely note wishing me good luck. And he said, He said exactly that. If you're not having fun on the stage, nobody's going to have fun watching you. So have fun.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one of the things you mentioned is saying it out loud, and I really agree that with that. Doesn't matter whether you're giving a speech somewhere, whatever, reading it out loud or saying it out loud really helps you hone it, right?
Absolutely, it does. Yeah. And it, even that's an old editing trick too. And I used to write news stories, and even now when I'm writing whatever I'm writing, speeches or what have you, saying it out loud. And I don't always do it, but every time I do, it makes such a huge difference in the editing process, let alone the comedy process.
It gives it a better flow. That's when you get to see the little kinks and stuff, I think.
Absolutely. It's like nobody would put those words together. Why did you?
That's very good. So do you have it now? This is going to air on the 28th of this month.
Okay.
So do you have any gigs coming up?
I do. I have a gig on March 17th at Crave. It's a local club. It'll be the second comedy show at Crave. It's a fundraiser show organized by Kai Lucas, who you've had on the show a couple of times. And it's a fundraiser for Bobby's Hospice. So I have the privilege of being on that show. And then I'm also on another show on March 23rd at Old Foggy Distillery in Hampton, New Brunswick. It's got a great lineup. It's another one organized by Kive. It's got me and Eric Kane and Michelle and Petite and a mystery headliner.
Ooh.
Who has some real accolades, and I'm super looking forward to that show too. And my parents even bought tickets to that one, so I'm excited for that.
Now, I know that you said you're in communications at your day job, right?
Yeah.
And you went to school for journalism.
I did.
Yeah. So give me a little bit of background about you other than that.
Other than that, sure. Well, I am a trombone player, so I also play in a few bands around town, and I am a podcast host. I host a podcast with my friend Isaiah called Living Large. Or it's actually called Kate and Isaiah Living Large. And we talk about our challenges with weight loss and just living as large people in large bodies. And we've been going on for about a year now and have had some success with that. And I also am a community volunteer kind of person. And then my day job, I'm communications officer for the province. And I worked as an editor and a writer for various newspapers prior to that.
Okay, you said a communication for the
officer for the province of New Brunswick. Yeah, I work in the Department of Health.
Okay, so what does that entail?
Writing press releases and speeches and things like that.
Oh, I see. Okay, so no, because I know, like you said, I lost your I had your profile. I was reading it because it helps me go through some questions. And
Of course.
I've since lost it, because
No worries.
because I'm always looking for stuff. Oh, here you are. So what were some of the other things that said about you? So you're a former reporter and photographer at Woodstock Bugle Observer, right?
Yeah, that was my first journalism job.
So former reporter and photographer. So you went out and did your own photography as well as
Yep. I did. It was small papers, and now pretty much all papers except the really big ones.
Yeah.
You kind of have to be you have to do both.
Hmm.
And because there's pretty small operations. I don't know if you've heard this about journalism. It's not doing that great. And so to speak.
I think with things online, and has changed everything, right?
Absolutely it has. And there's just no real way to make money. So when those first few jobs, you're basically all print reporters or reporters, photographers. They kind of do it all.
Okay. And then you were a former copywriter at the community college in New Brunswick.
Yeah, at NBCC. So in that job, I wrote program descriptions and helped out with other communications efforts. At the time, it was 2010, 2011, and that was when they were transitioning from a direct wing of the government to a Crown Court. So it was an exciting time in NBCC land.
Okay. Then you were a former city editor at the Telegraph Journal.
I managed a team of great reporters, and we did the Greater St. John section of the Telegraph Journal.
So obviously everything you do has to do with writing in some form, right?
Yeah, some kind of, I always used to say, and I kind of feel this way about even performance. I feel like I'm a lucky person to be a conduit, so I can hear somebody's story, and parlay that into the world. And when it comes to comedy, it's usually my own story. But I feel like writing is a tool like anything else, where and I just so happen to have a skill for it.
Mhm.
And you work at it and things like that. But I always feel like the real job is talking to people and then communicating their story outward, or getting something done, or performing, or whatever the end result is.
Yeah,
I always just feel like I'm lucky enough to be a conduit for that.
yeah, very good. Getting back to the comedy, so growing up, who were some of the people that comics that really made you laugh?
Oh, I'm a huge Norm Macdonald fan. I just that dry silliness, but real in-depth intelligence is what gets me. Big into Steve Martin. The Robin Williams Live at the Met. I used to have that on a CD that I played over and over and over and over and over in my car. And it was like I was doing this in the mid 2000s, but it was from 1986.
Right.
And if I put it on today, I'd probably still cry laughing. Um, you know, I have a real respect for people who are incredibly intelligent and but can be silly.
Yeah.
I also am a huge Jon Stewart fan, Stephen Colbert, all those guys too. That news element kind of factors into my enjoyment of some comedy as well, which is silly, which is kind of funny because it's not how my own comedy goes at all. Like I'm not smart. Just kidding.
But I think it was Johnny Carson said that every comedian has another comedian that just cracks them up.
100%. And
So
I'm so like, there's so many good, there's this local scene has gotten so good lately. There are people that I see around in the street and that I'm lucky enough to be on shows with them. And they just sometimes can crack me up to the point of tears. Locally, we've got such a good local scene right now.
right. It's funny because when you talk about it, like I always remember seeing Eddie Murphy Raw, and it
Yeah.
surprised me with the language because like
Yeah.
I didn't know he could, had all those words, but some of the things they just to this day, and that was a long time ago. To this day, when I think of some of his lines, it's just, oh my God, that's so hilarious, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They didn't teach you those words in Campbellton, did they?
Do you ever, when you're in the audience, get disappointed by somebody, what they're, the way they're performing, like not necessarily their performance itself, but some of the language they're using or anything like that?
I'm not too fussy about it because I think I mean, I can be kind of serious about this question in that I'm a huge proponent of freedom of speech and our freedom of expression, as we say in Canada. And I don't like it when there's hate speech, when there's real malevolence behind it. But this is kind of a cliche thing to say, but it really truly is about intent. There have been some acts that I've seen locally where some people, I'm pretty sure, are standing up just to be because they're stating how they feel
Yeah,
under the guise of comedy, and
yeah,
that's a risky game. But people who are making jokes and using foul language, or saying things that kind of toe the line of um, polite culture, oh, well, that's what it's for. And if you're doing it to illustrate a larger point or to express yourself in a way that is not hurting anyone else,
mhm,
because we also have hate speech laws in Canada, which are very important, which differentiates us from our southern neighbors in some cases. But overall, no, it's not my place to be disappointed. There's things that I don't find funny, but that's just a matter of taste.
yeah, for sure. Have you ever been in a situation where, okay, so you've got your comedy, like your lines, whatever it is you're going to say, and you realize that your audience is not responding, like, or you're able to switch at that time and find something more that that you think the audience will respond to?
Um, I mean, I have to say I'm not a developed enough person as a comedian to have those. It's not that I'm getting such big laughs all the time that I notice a big difference when I'm not getting a huge laugh, and I'm performing in front of such small crowds most of the time that most of the time that you're not getting that roar of applause, or you're not also not feeling that lull, so you're kind of used to the quiet in some
Yeah.
ways. And I have been in situations where I've noticed somebody in the crowd that has like I kind of mentioned, a really horrific boyfriend who was among all his other foibles, abusive. And so, funnily enough, I have some jokes about that and how I make it funny. Well, I do, and because I think anything can be funny.
Mhm.
And but one time, recently, just last week, I spotted somebody in the audience, and it's relatively new material for me within the last couple of months, within the last month for sure, who I thought was friends with him, my ex, and I don't use his name or anything like that, but still,
Yeah.
this person would definitely know it. And I was like, I had this moment of like, okay, what am I going to do? And I did leave out a couple of lines and edited a bit. And then I talked to him after and everything was fine. But I did have this moment of, oh my God, on stage, like, what am I going to do? Because that's small town, small province, right? That's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. It's unavoidable, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So other than that, okay, so like currently, how often do you perform?
I perform as much as I can. Like anytime I get a chance to hold a microphone, I will take it. And you know, there's a real booming scene right in the city right now. There's a few different mics that are pretty regular. And go to Moncton. I've got a gig just before the air date in Fredericton that I'm zooming to. Like there's just all kinds of opportunities. So if I can perform at least minimum once a week,
Yeah,
if not more, I'm a happy camper.
yeah, it is fun, isn't
It really is. What a joy. What
it?
a privilege.
And one of the things that I'm just thinking about, one of the things that comedians' job is to make fun of everything,
Yep.
right?
And namely themselves. And I'm a huge self-deprecator person.
I prefer that kind of comedy myself, like rather than somebody like who picks on somebody in the audience. I don't think I personally, if I was in that audience being picked on by that comedian, like I'd be really upset, you know?
I think there's a way to, and I mean, again, I'm no expert. I would know in no way purport to have any kind of mad skills on this, but I hosted a show just last weekend, and it was a small crowd. Like I knew pretty much everyone in it except one guy at the bar, and I think it's cool to engage with somebody without being cruel.
Yeah.
And this fellow, I was promoting the next show at this bar, and I said to the fella, I said, "Oh, you going to be there, sir?" And he said, "Yeah, maybe I will." I was like, "Well, it's the 2 days before my birthday, so you're going to buy me a drink?" And so, like, just kind of, but I
That's,
don't think
yeah,
he was.
that's fine. I
No,
don't
he was
mean that. Yeah, yeah. I don't mean
no,
that thing. You know, I was just,
but to just tease somebody, and I think the only time that's warranted is if the person is being rude during the show too. Like, I think there is a place for calling people out for being rude because I've talked about this with musician friends, and as a musician myself, there's a difference between being relegated to being background music in that situation. You still know that it's kind of lingering, permeating over the crowd, and people are hearing it, and you can hear that that's going on, even if people are talking and stuff. But when you're telling jokes and someone else is talking, it's all at the same frequency. It's so uncomfortable. And it's just plain rude. Like, go somewhere else. Leave the room.
yeah, I've had waitresses do that, trying to talk over me when I'm on stage, and I'm thinking, like, I'm not after your job, so
Yeah.
right? You don't have to try to speak over me. It's like it's so weird when somebody does something like that, right?
And in those cases, I think it's probably okay to tease them a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we've just about covered everything. I'm going to get you to message me some of those things, like the name of your podcast, because I jot notes down quickly and then I can't read my writing.
For sure, no problem at all.
So as I said, this will air on the 28th. Anyway, just talk to the audience for a second. So you've been listening to Katelin Dean, comedian from St. John, New Brunswick. And if you're in that area or Moncton, anywhere around there, check out your listings. I'm sure they'll be posted on Facebook. Where else would you post them, Katelin? Do you know?
There's a real deficit of places to post things like this, but I think Facebook is the main place to find things.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah, because it's really great to have an audience, and having friends there is one thing, but having people that you don't know come and enjoy a show is really, really good. So
Yeah.
I suggest everybody get out there and check it out and have some fun with your friends, and don't talk while somebody's up on stage, because it's not an easy thing to be up there. That's why you're sitting in the audience and not. Anyway, thanks for watching the show, everybody. Take care and peace out.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.